Hey everyone, welcome to today's TEENtastic Tuesday live stream program, presented on behalf of the Los Angeles Public Library's Young Adult Services, in coordination with the library's LGBTQIA committee. My name is Jonathan, Administrative Clerk at the Robertson Branch Library.
And I'm Oscar Jerkovich, a Young Adult Librarian at the Will and Ariel Durant Branch Library. We are joined today for a Q&A with Robbie Couch, author of The Sky Blues.
Hello.
Hi. This book is about an openly gay high schooler named Sky Baker, whose small town run turns absolutely claustrophobic when his secret proposal plans get leaked to the entire school.
Author Robbie Couch grew up in small town Michigan, where the blues really are bluer, and has been published in HuffPost, Upworthy, and the Oprah magazine, among other outlets. Robbie holds a degree in journalism from the Michigan State University and lives in Los Angeles, where he remains in constant fear of aggressive birds and on the prowl for his next bowl of noodles.
Yes.
As you're watching the live stream, you have the opportunity to ask Robbie questions. Go ahead and jot down your question into the live chat box on YouTube or Facebook, and we will gladly share them with Robbie to answer.
And now, please welcome to our LAPL TEENtastic Tuesday guest, Robbie Couch. Robbie, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so stoked to be here, and I'm really jazzed to be talking about the Sky Blues.
We're glad to have you, Robbie. Before we jump on in, I was wondering if you could read an excerpt from the book.
Yeah, for sure. So as they mentioned in that very great intro, this is The Sky Blues, my very first book that just debuted in April, and I'm going to go ahead and start reading right in chapter 1, right at the beginning, just a few pages, just to give you a taste of the story.
Great.
I'm standing in the shower next to Ali Rashid, the Ali Rashid. Sure, we're both completely naked, and there are plenty of other body parts my eyes could wander toward, but I can't look away from his eyebrows, of all things. His big, bushy, glorious effing eyebrows. I've never even noticed another person's before Ali's, I don't think, but his are different, I guess. I've stared at them so many times, mostly across crowded classrooms or dreamily through Instagram filters. I bet I could sketch them from memory, follicle by follicle. That's a super weird gay thing to admit, I know. But hi, I'm a gay weirdo, apparently. Can I kiss you, Sky? He asks. The hazel of his eyes disappears behind long, curly eyelashes. They're as beautiful as the brows, so jet black and thick they could, sign a modeling contract all on their own, I swear. I can't wait to tell our gaybies, gay plus babies, about this someday. Their dad's first kiss. They'll probably be grossed out, but that's okay. Sky, let's go, Bree's mom yells right outside the bathroom door. My whole body jolts awake from my daydream. My shower dream? Yeah, that's more like it. Let's call it that. My Ali shower dream. I have them from time to time. Rattled, I reach out to grab the shower curtain to regain my balance, and the whole thing rips beneath my weight. My flailing body goes spilling out onto the bath mat like some white, scaly-ass fish caught in Lake Michigan. It seriously sounds like a bomb went off, a wet, soapy, incredibly embarrassing bomb. I yelp, more out of shock than pain. Oh my God, Bree's mom gasps on the other side of the bathroom door as the dangling nozzle sprays water literally everywhere. Bree's pit bulls, Thelma and Louise, start barking a few dry walls away. Are you okay, Sky? No, I groan. I mean, yeah, but it's too late. The door cracks open and I see the bright red rims of Mrs. Brandstone's glasses for a microsecond before I screech in protest, lying there totally exposed on the slippery floor. She squeals too and slams the door shut. I'm mortified. I am completely, totally, full stop, mortified. This has to be a top 5 most embarrassing moment, really. Way worse than when my best friend Marshall let out a massive fart in 7th grade gym and ran away, leaving everyone thinking it was me. It's very weird to say the word fart out loud on one of these calls, just FYI. But anyways, back to the story. Don't worry, I didn't see anything, Bree's mom lies through the door. And even if I did, I've seen it all anyway, honey. But hustle, please. Bree is waiting outside. You two are going to be late. And just like clockwork, Bree, my other best friend, starts honking her horn out in the driveway as if the apocalypse will ensue if we're 30 seconds late to first hour. She's going to kill me. Tell her I'm coming. I stand and turn the shower off before fixing the rod and curtain. Half the bathroom floor is covered in a puddle. What an absolute mess. This bathroom and my life. My guess is Ollie's probably shower dreaming about someone else this exact moment over at his house on Ashton Drive. It's the 3rd house from the corner, the one with seafoam green shutters and the cat Franklin moseying around in the front window. Yes, okay, I'm in love with Ali Rashid. I'm not proud of it. I'm anything but proud of it. I'm annoyed of it. I'm sick of it. I wish I could snap my fingers and forget Ali Rashid even exists. But he does, and I'm hopelessly, helplessly, eternally infatuated with him, his seductive eyebrows, XXX-rated eyelashes, and the way his skin crinkles a bit when he laughs at one of my jokes. Especially when he snorts a little too, because then I know it's genuine. Crushing this hard is confusing though. In my 17 years on this planet, Ali is the only boy that's ever made me feel this way. Actually, the only person, period. Falling this hard isn't all euphoric and heavenly like in the 400 million rom-coms I've watched way too many times to count. Like when Lara Jean finally confesses her love to Peter on the lacrosse field and to all the boys I've loved before, and everyone gets their happiest possible ending. Or like in Booksmart, when Hope shows up on the doorstep to give Amy her phone number right before Amy bounces to Botswana for the summer. What convenient timing. Okay, sure, some days it does feel like that. Some days I feel like Simon Spear on the Ferris wheel. I have my moments when I swear Cupid flies in and slaughters me with his big gay arrow, and my eyes turn into heart emojis, and I can't catch my breath for a solid 5 seconds. But the problem is, Ali is straight. Well, probably straight. Maybe straight? I don't know. We're friends-ish, but not in that way. At least not yet. I don't think. Anyway. And that's it.
Oh my gosh.
So clearly he's falling very hard for Ali.
That was so adorable right there. It heartbreaks me.
Thanks.
Let's jump right on in. Thank you very much, Robbie, for reading that excerpt from your first novel, The Sky Blues. Tell us a bit about yourself, as you're a bit of a newcomer into the young adult publications circuit. If you could just give us a little bio about yourself, that would be great, so that our viewers can know who you are.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, The Sky Blues, as noted, is my debut book. So I'm sort of a newcomer in the space, but I've always loved stories and writing stories and consuming stories. This book is pretty personal to me because it's set in small town Michigan, which is where I grew up. And I would say it's autobiographical-ish in that, like, the world around Sky was definitely built from my own experiences growing up in small town Michigan, but Sky's story specifically is pretty different than mine. I wasn't out in high school. Sky Baker is out. I didn't have any of the very intense trauma that he goes through at certain points in the book, in the same way that Sky has experienced those sorts of things. So there's a lot of differences between Sky and myself, but I definitely relied on my own upbringing in small town Michigan to kind of create that world. But yeah, it's my debut, so I feel like I'm kind of on a learning curve with all this publishing stuff, but I've learned a lot in the past year and a half or so, and I'm really excited for my upcoming books as well.
That's awesome. I didn't know that you did not come out in high school. That's unique in a sense. I would have thought, as this was sort of your autobiographical book in a way, you and Sky would relate in some sort of way. So I find that to be very interesting.
Yeah, I came out I came out when I was 18, my freshman year of college. So I did kind of the stereotypical thing where I moved away to college. I went to Michigan State and then came out my fall semester. So I came out pretty quickly once I got out of my small town. And it was just the right decision, I think, for me. I am a big fan of people coming out whenever they feel it's the right time for them. And, no one should feel kind of constrained to a specific timeline. For me, I just didn't feel like it was my time in high school, and then being able to move away and meet new people and kind of have a bigger world around me, instead of a smaller town where I felt was a little bit more insular and tough to come out in a small town like the one I grew up in. So it was the best move for me. But yeah, no, I wasn't, unlike Sky, it was not out in high school.
Gotcha. Well, that's phenomenal. But I'm glad to hear that you came to terms like Sky did at a younger age, and you basically blossomed to such the person that you are today, providing your amazing talent for us readers to read in this amazing novel that I really adore. So thank you very much, Robbie.
Thank you.
Oscar?
All right. So you talked a little bit about this already, but we were wondering what motivated you to become a young adult writer? And also, what inspires you to write and publish your fine works of literature?
Yeah, I think for me, I wasn't necessarily, like when I knew I wanted to write a book, I wasn't from the beginning super focused, or I guess I didn't know for sure if it was going to be a young adult book. But once the character started kind of coming into a full person in my brain, I knew I kind of wanted to explore the kind of post coming out period in a young person's life. And it just kind of worked out that he would be a teenager. So then the more I kind of built the story, the more I realized it fit really nicely into the YA genre and the YA space. And so, yeah, I guess I didn't start with the genre. I kind of started with the story and building out the characters and the world around Sky, and then realized it was a really good fit for YA in terms of the story and the themes I wanted to go for. But yeah, it's been a wild ride, and I'm every day it's so cool to like get reader feedback and to read reviews. Although not all of them are great, but when they are nice, it's really wonderful. Yeah, it's been awesome.
Yeah, I know. Haters are gonna hate. So
Exactly.
I think you kind of touched on to what I'm about to ask. How did the Sky Blues come to be from a rough draft to publication? Is the novel, I guess we just touched on a minute or so ago, is the novel in any sense your teenage autobiography?
Yeah, as I mentioned, there's some aspects of it. The world around Sky was certainly informed by my own upbringing, and living in Michigan certainly did. But I finished the story back in 2016, or I'm sorry, I started writing it back in 2016, and I finished it in like late 2018, early 2019. It's kind of gray around it when I exactly finished it. But from the first draft, or really like the earliest conceptions of what I was thinking for the Sky Blues, it's changed quite a bit. I would say kind of the heart of the story is still there, but a lot of the plot lines and the character names and certain themes have been, it's been kind of all over the place, which I think is maybe normal from the moment you come up with the story idea to the finished product. Even back in 2015, when I started thinking about telling this story in a very weird way, the main character was a straight girl. So it wasn't even really the same story, but it just shows you how much the story has morphed into what it has become now. So it's been definitely a difficult process, having it being my first, and all the challenges that come with being a newbie in publishing. But I'm so happy with how it's turned out, and the reader feedback that I've been getting. So it's turned out pretty great.
I'm just curious, what made you decide? How did it? I know you said it was just kind of a rough draft. You mentioned it started off as the main character being a straight woman. Why that transition? It just that kind of really got my interest.
Yeah, I would say so. When I first, even before anything was on paper, even before I started outlining or really concretely coming up with the story concepts, I just had a few ideas floating in my brain. And the one that I was sort of leaning towards back in 2015 was I won't even get into the weeds of the story itself, but yeah, the lead was a straight girl, I think 16 or 17 years old. And I was talking to a friend of mine in publishing, and we're just kind of chatting through the idea. And he was like, well, why isn't your lead queer? And why isn't she or he a part of the LGBTQ community if that means a lot to you to have more queer representation? And I think I really had to stop and hit pause and question myself for what my motivations were. And I think back then, even just 6 years ago, there were far fewer stories that had LGBTQ leads in them. And back then, there's still lots of challenges that come with having a queer book or having characters who are queer in your book. There's definitely progress to be had, but I think we've come so far in the past few years in terms of broadening representation and having more LGBTQ stories. But back then, I think it was still a dicier space to be in, to write a book that has a gay teen lead, and not knowing if that would be a turnoff for publishers or if it would be seen as, something that wouldn't make money, or there's not a reader base for it. Of course, there are readers out there who love these stories, and they can be very successful, as we know. But even just 6 years ago, I think it was a different space. So I had some reservations about wanting to go down that road. But after having that conversation with my friend, I realized, no, it's so important to have more queer stories, to have more stories that resonate with young LGBTQ people. So I definitely pivoted to a much more queer story at that point, and the rest is history.
All right, that's that's really interesting. I never really thought of it that way. I know there are, now there are more and more LGBTQ stories that we do have in our collection at the LA Public Library. And we always are trying to look for more for patrons to check out. I was just kind of curious if maybe your publisher maybe asked for you to make that sort of change. That's quite interesting. Normally in the past, I know things were kind of different in the sense that maybe this might be too risque to our those that buy books from us, So, but I'm glad to hear that this was based on your decision that you decided to kind of make that sort of change. So, kudos to you, Robbie, on doing so, because this, I would have not changed any sort of, I would not change anything in the book that you have released through the publishing of Into the Sky Blues. So,
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. Oscar?
I also am really glad that you kind of went all in terms of queering up the story by including a trans character. So even more kudos to you for that.
Thanks.
My question is, we saw that the Sky Blues got some praise from very well-known authors like Becky Albertalli, and then also actors like Kevin McHale, who's in Glee, and then also YouTube personality Tyler Oakley. And so we were wondering, what was your reaction in getting that kind of praise from your creative peers?
It was so cool. I was so blown away. With all the three people that you mentioned, I admire each of them so much. Becky, Kevin, and Tyler were so generous with their time to have read the book, months before it was published, and write some good feedback that we could use in marketing the book and putting it on the cover, as you mentioned. So it was very cool. I was a fan of all three of them before they even submitted the blurbs for the book. So to have their support really means a lot to me. It was a very, very cool experience to have their influence on the cover, for sure.
Thank you.
And I have to ask real quick, I noticed that you and Tyler went to the same university.
Yeah.
You knew each other at that time?
Yeah, yes. We were the same class. I believe we were. And we were in the same School of Communication at Michigan State University. So yeah, I have a few Tyler memories stored from the good old college days. But yeah, he was sort of known as like the up and coming YouTuber on campus. So it's been very cool to see his career just like balloon and take so many cool turns and twists. And yeah, so it was especially cool and personal and awesome to have his support for sure.
Got it. No, and then also to mention, it's also good to note that he's also has written a book as well, and that was published several years ago, and which I gotta say was also hilarious in a sense to kind of read to see the kind of stuff that we went through. So I was just like, okay, this is some good read.
Yeah. Well, what is the Snervous? I think it's somewhere. It's somewhere in my apartment, but
Yeah,
I read it at some point.
yeah. And to those that are watching, we do have a book. I'll see if I can remember before the end of the program. We do have his book in our collection at the LA Public Library. We'll look it up before the end of the program for those that might want to check that out as well. So what I want to ask you now, Robbie, is what was the publication process like for Sky Blues, and how did it feel to know that your book, your baby, got picked up for a movie?
Yeah, it's been a wild journey for sure. Because this was my first book, I didn't have any contracts with a publisher beforehand. I had to write the whole complete manuscript and started submitting it to agents. I guess I kind of went the more conventional, traditional route in publishing. There's various ways to get your work out there. You can self-publish. There are lots of ways you can make it happen. I think I went a little bit more traditional, conventional way, where I got a literary agent first, who her name is Mo. She's wonderful. She jumped on with me to work with me on the Sky Blues, and then a few months later, we began like the submission process to go out to publishers, and that's when I got connected with Amanda Ramirez at Simon & Schuster, who is lovely. She is my editor at my publisher at Simon & Schuster, and we just connected, and we had a really good conversation about her vision for the book, what she loved about it, some tweaks that she wanted to see for the book to really make it even stronger, which I totally was on board with. So then it's now we're here a few months later, and as you mentioned too, the book got optioned. The film rights got sold to Walden Media a couple months ago, and I know there's been some really cool positive developments in that space, but I can't talk about them now. but no, it's so cool to see that there's interest in making a film adaptation of Sky's story, because some of my favorite books have become movies too, and they've kind of taken on an entirely different life on the big screen, and it's such a cool thing to experience when you have a story that you love. Have that happen to it. So I'm really, really stoked.
So did it just happen through the circuit that, I guess a production company kind of came across it and they were like, we could probably turn this into a major motion picture?
Sort of. So I'm represented through, not to get too dry and boring, but I'm represented through a literary agency that's also connected to like film and television development as well. So I had representation like in this television and film space through my literary agency. Sorry if that's sort of confusing, but basically I had folks who were kind of passing around the book to folks in the film and TV worlds to see if there was any interest. And when Walden got their hands on it, they decided to move forward with optioning it, which was very exciting. And Walden, they've done so many terrific films, and they kind of specialize in doing book to film and TV adaptations, and they're just so wonderful at it. So I was especially excited that they were the ones that expressed interest.
Well, thank you for giving us a little info about it. I guess for those that always kind of wonder how it works, like, you know, it usually starts off with the book, and then some books end up turning into a major motion picture. Thanks for giving us a little info on how that kind of process of that works.
Yeah, of course.
Oscar?
All right, since we talked about the Sky Blues, the movie, we were wondering, do you have a dream cast that you're envisioning once it goes into production?
Oh man, I've gotten this question a couple times, and I definitely do. In my head, I have a few names floating around that I think would be amazing for Sky and for his friends and for Miss Winter. I've actually had a few readers recommend who they are thinking for different characters, and including Miss Winter, and I'm always like, it's so fun and exciting to think about it. But I'm gonna hold off on saying it publicly because I know right now we're in the process of like finding the folks and reaching out to people. So I don't want to mess with anyone's visions of who they see as the cast. But I definitely have a few floating around up here.
All right, fair enough.
All right, fair enough. We do have a comment actually from Katie. She wants to know do you plan on being involved with the movie? You know, will there be any sort of aspects that you'll be involved in that production?
Yeah, so it's sort of TBD in terms of the specifics. I will potentially have sort of a consultant role. So Walden's been really great at working with me and staying connected with me throughout the development process. But at the same time, it is sort of it's its own project, it's its own thing. So of course, there's such a big difference between bringing something to life on the big screen and then writing a novel for it. So they're building a really terrific team right now of folks who are going to make it a wonderful film. But I'm not super hands-on in the day-to-day, but Walden's been terrific with keeping me up to speed on what's happening. And it looks like I might have a meeting coming up next week that I'm really excited for, to connect with some folks who are in that world. So I'm staying involved to a degree.
Good.
But also understanding that it's its own thing, and you kind of have to let go in a certain way as an author and just kind of let the book do its thing. So
yeah, no, I hear you. I know now that it's like it'll be interesting to see how this will be adapted on the screen. So, but I think it will be amazing. Several books that basically were adapted into a major motion pictures like Love, Simon, was done beautifully. So I have total confidence this will be the same for your piece of work as well. So we'll be watching. What comes out of it.
Thank you.
Let's see. We actually have another comment from another viewer of ours. Actually, I have a question from David. What are some book-to-screen adaptations that you've liked or disliked?
Hey, David. Good question. I would say one of my favorites has been, and this is interesting because I actually didn't I tried reading the books and they were I should try as an adult and see if it hits differently as an adult, but as a kid, I just couldn't. They were pretty dense for me as a kid. And that was the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I tried, I just couldn't get into it. I'm sure there are many people who love of course there are so many people who love the book, so I don't want to rain on anyone's parade, but I love the film adaptations of them. I remember seeing, I think it was The Fellowship of the Ring, like so many times in theaters, and my parents at one point were like, how much money have you spent in your allowance on movie tickets to see the same movie? I mean, it was ridiculous. So that was a good example of one. You mentioned Love, Simon. I thought the Love, Simon film was terrific, and I love the book, of course, as well. So that was really cool to see that story kind of take on its own life. But yeah, there's been a lot of it. But I think the key is to kind of accept that it's a totally different, well, I don't want to say it's a totally different story, but you have to kind of accept that, the film version of the story is going to feel different and be different and kind of take on its own life separate from the book. And I think if you can kind of compartmentalize in your brain, that helps you kind of enjoy both. I know for me, it was the same with like Harry Potter. I loved the Harry Potter books growing up, and I loved and appreciated the films, but in a very different way. So that's sort of the key, I think, to enjoying both.
Okay. Good. Yeah. I was trying to think what are my favorite films that came from book to screen, and I do love John Green's books that have been adapted from book to screen, like Paper Towns and Into the Stars, or
The Fault in Our Stars.
Oh,
Yeah.
Stars. Yes. Yeah.
I love The Fault in Our Stars.
Yeah. No, those were some of my favorite films that were basically adapted from book to screen, and like this is perfect storytelling that you could watch and that anyone can relate. So,
Definitely.
Oscar, do you have any films that you love that were from book to screen?
Oh, are you asking me? Sorry,
Yeah.
The very first word you said cut off, and I guess that was my name.
Any movies or
I
TV
did
shows you've liked?
I did really enjoy. What?
Any books or TV shows that you've liked that that came from a book that are now on screen?
It's not a direct adaptation, but I really love the inspiration that led to Love, Victor, which is on Hulu. I've enjoyed that very much just because I can relate to it, being Hispanic as well.
It's a great series. I love Love, Victor. Although I haven't finished the second season. I have to get on it.
No spoilers.
I might have to catch up. I might have to get into that one. But maybe or after we're done with this. So, Robbie, we've heard through the grapevine that you have a constant fear of aggressive birds. Why is that? As well as your obsession for noodles. And now that you've lived in Los Angeles for a little bit, what's your go-to place to satisfy that craving of yours?
Yeah, well, there's a long history of my bird fear. I was attacked by a swan as a 3-year-old. I was attacked by a pigeon when I was in Rome, Italy. So I won't go down that rabbit hole of like all the reasons why birds are terrible. Beards are great. Birds are terrible. But and to be clear, I don't advocate for violence against birds. Some people think I want to kill all birds. I don't want to kill birds. I don't want to mess with birds. I just don't want them around me, I guess is one way to say it. But on the noodles front, I definitely have had a number of very good pasta places and noodle places around here in LA. Where did I had Pasta Sisters a couple months ago. That was very delicious. Pasta Sisters has some good, fresh noodles. If you're in Los Angeles and are craving some noodles, I highly recommend it.
Oh my gosh, yeah, no, I've heard about that place from a colleague of mine at one of the neighborhood branches I used to work at. She says it's really good. I definitely need to check out Pasta Sisters for sure.
Yeah, and if you're more in so I live close to, and this is when my LA newbie status comes into play. I don't know if it's officially called Japantown, but it's like Sawtelle, where there's like a cluster of different East Asian restaurants. Yeah, there's a ton of really great noodle and ramen places in that area as well. But yeah, I could talk about noodles all day.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, for those that are watching, it is called Japantown. That stretch on Sawtelle on the west side. He's for those that are watching, he's referring to those series of restaurants. If you're near our West Los Angeles regional branch, it's just right around the corner on Sawtelle. So that's that is such a thing. Gotcha. Well, now I kind of know about your hate. Well, not hate, but now I know why you have that fear for birds. Now that I know, I'm like, okay. And it's not to, this is a message to not attack birds in a sense. And
right. It is It is strange that a few people have noted that there's like, I don't know how if you can see details, but there's birds all over the cover of, yeah, and the chapter heads have birds like between chapters. I love the cover and I love the design. It's like absolutely perfect for the story, but I will say I did not choose that. I did not choose birds to be on the cover.
And you know what? I'm actually, if you don't mind, Oscar, you jumped on right on what I was about to ask, but I got to ask now because you were just showing off the cover.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. So tell us about the art cover of the book, like of that book, and then there was another question we'll get back to in a second with Oscar. Did you have any input with the art or artist that was chosen to draw out the cover of the Sky Blues?
Sort of. It's a little bit collaborative. You work with, and I'm sure every author and publisher dynamic is probably a little different. But from my experiences working with Simon and Schuster, they work with separate artists, but then we also kind of have a back and forth where they'll send along like earlier versions of what the cover looks like. And this cover by Jeff Osberg, I just loved it so much. It's almost, I'm trying to think what was different the first time. So I think my name might have been in a slightly different font at the bottom that we ended up changing. But beyond that, it was like 99% the same, like one of the earliest conceptions of it. Jeff just like totally nailed it. And it was one of those emails that I opened and just like immediately started crying because I was like, it's perfect. So I've heard of author horror stories where they've hated the cover and have had to go back and forth with the publisher and work through it. That was not at all my my situation or my experience at Simon & Schuster. So yeah, so it's a little collaborative, but the publisher did work separately with Jeff and with cover artists and illustrators.
All right. Well, that's okay. That's another thing I did not know about. I guess for those that are watching, just are always curious how that kind of works out. Like, the cover for the books that go with that book. I guess we learned something new on that today. Thanks for sharing with that, Robbie. Oscar, Go ahead. I didn't mean to jump ahead, but you kind of tied it in the cover what I was going to ask. So I'll let Oscar go back to what he was going to ask.
No worries. We are going to change gears a little bit. And so we are aware you're announced your second novel, Blaine for the Win. And we were wondering what you can tell us about it right now.
Yeah, for sure. And I want to give a quick shout out to Alex. Thank you, Alex, Alex just wrote that the cover is beautiful. So thank you, Alex. But yeah, Blaine for the Win is my second book. It comes out, it comes out next April, 2022. And I'm really excited about it. It was sort of inspired by Legally Blonde and The Politician on Netflix. So it's sort of a little bit of a mishmash of the two, but it's its own unique story. You meet Blaine right in the beginning of the story, and he's really, really excited about his 1-year anniversary with his boyfriend, Joey. But Blaine is very excited about going out to eat and having this really special, magical anniversary dinner, and he gets dumped on his 1-year anniversary for not being serious enough. Because Joey is looking for serious guys to be with. So Blaine sort of has this existential moment where he's like, how do I become serious, and how do I win Joey back? And he decides that he thinks that running for class president to be Joey's successor will help him do that and win Joey back. But then there's lots of twists and turns and uphill battles for Blaine from that moment on. But it's been so fun to write. It's a very, very fun rom-com with definitely a bit of heart to it. And I can't wait for it to get out there into the world.
Thank you. I love Legally Blonde, so you definitely caught my interest. I look forward to reading it next year.
Yay. Yeah. Thank you.
All right, Jonathan.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I'm so excited to read this book when it comes out, and hopefully, for sure, we will have your second book in our collection next spring. Blade for the win. And that was
Nice.
sort of, I guess, just to go back on to my last question I asked you. I guess it was for we did well, you showed us just your book a little bit ago, and then for those that are watching, if you want to look it up after the show, the cover for Blade for the Win is already out. I guess just real quick, did you have any input on that one as well?
Oh, for the cover, you mean, of Blaine?
Yeah.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, it was a similar process where yeah, I worked with my editor, and the team at Simon and Schuster was working with a separate artist throughout the conception of it. So yeah, a similar process.
Okay, gotcha. All right, I was just kind of yeah, because that was something I was going to ask when we got to that point, but I had to wait before Oscar asked, so I had to kind of just real quick follow up with that. We actually have another question from Katie. She wants to know, as you were kind of going into detail, you know, on sort of how you go about with the works that you've written. We're just kind of curious, what is your writing space like when you're drafting all these stories?
Yeah. Well, my physical writing space, I assume that's what she means. I work at my desk right here in the corner. This is where I do the corner of my bedroom. This is where I do probably 75 to 90% of my writing. Yes, sometimes I'll write from bed or the sofa as well. But I'm definitely the most productive when I'm home, when I'm working here, because I got my big monitor behind the laptop that I'm seeing y'all on. I have a succulent right there. I would turn it around, but I think it would be, because the light coming in from the window would be kind of messy. But I have a succulent, nice little lamp. Ooh, I do have, I don't know if y'all saw, let me grab it real quick. The Lego Pride thing that they, but I made this one little Pride Lego thing a few weeks ago. So I have that chilling next to me. So yeah, I definitely like having my space set up to be productive and creative and get work done.
That's beautiful. The Lego Pride. I've seen it last month during Pride, and I gotta say, oh my gosh, that's such a beautiful piece of Lego art.
Yeah, it's super fun. It was fun to make. I'd actually never played with Legos. I wasn't like a Lego kid as when I was growing up, and I had like a blast putting it together. So yeah, and my friend Bryce got it for me. Shout out to Bryce if you ever happen to be watching this. Thank you, Bryce.
Gotcha. Well, we also want to give a shout out to Alex, last name Phaeton, Alex Sky Phaeton, who's been commenting throughout the program. Shout out to you, Alex, for watching and providing feedback.
Yeah, thanks, Alex.
Oscar, I think we went a little out of context. Do you want to go back to what you were going to ask?
Sure, yeah. And Robbie, I'm glad you were able to find the Pride Lego set. I tried looking everywhere and I could not find it. I was very sad.
No. Oh man, I wonder if it went on a stock or something. My friend bought it for me, so I wasn't. I wish I could give you tips on how to get it, but I don't know.
I'll just keep looking. So we were wondering, what does the future hold for you? Are you going to continue writing, try and become the next David Levithan, prolific LGBT author?
David is amazing. I got the chance to meet him on a panel. It was the first panel I've ever done, and I was like, David's going to be on this panel? Are you kidding me? And he's such a sweet guy and like has had so many amazing books. But no, I won't even try to imagine competing on that level. Yeah, I think there's definitely going to be lots of stories coming my way. There's of course Blaine for the Win, and then I'm actually drafting my third book that'll come out in 2023 that I'm also very excited about. I can't say anything about it yet because it's very ambiguous in terms of exactly where it's going, but I'm really, really excited about what I have so far and for what's cooking. But I think I'll always be a storyteller, regardless of the medium. I don't know for sure if I'll always write books the rest of my life, but hopefully that would be pretty awesome. And I think no matter what I'm doing, I know for sure that I love telling stories and I love queer people and writing and telling queer stories. So I think I would be incredibly lucky if I had a career that gave me the opportunity to kind of mesh those two worlds. So I hope I get to write forever, but we'll see.
You know, my heart just warmed up for what you just said, Robbie. I really hope down the road that this is something you'll continue. You have a passion for writing, and you have an amazing talent to share those stories for us to read. And the fact that you just gave us a little tea that there's a third book in the works, I know you can't say anything about it, just makes me really excited to see what the future holds for you. So,
Thank you.
I wish you all the best in regards to what these next few years have in store for you. Obviously, with the first book, is a great step up. So,
Awesome.
we're excited to see where that continues on. Let's see. We are about to wrap up. And wrapping up our conversation with you, Robbie, what advice do you recommend for those that are watching this stream that are struggling to come to terms with their own identity, like Sky did? Like, yes, he was already out, but like, do you have any sort of advice that you might want to share with those that are viewing that are, are coming to terms or are kind of like in the closet and are like, wondering, about themselves and like perhaps maybe this book might be the key to kind of maybe figuring themselves out?
Yeah, I think it's such an important question, and I've definitely been there. Definitely have spent years of my life in the closet and struggling with my own identity. And what I would say is, when you're a young LGBTQ plus person, I think sometimes the aspect of who you are as a queer person is so scary to kind of confront when you're younger. At least it can be. Especially if you are from a family that's not as accepting or live in a community that's not as accepting. And what I would say is that as you grow older and really are able to see that part of yourself and realize the really cool opportunities and perspectives that it gives you as a queer person, it kind of becomes your superpower. So what once was something that was so scary and might hold you back and something that you feel like you have to sort of hide from the world will end up being something that you're so grateful for and that you're so proud of. I know for me, being gay has really given me perspective on a lot of things that I don't think I would have gotten had I been straight. And so I'm so grateful that I'm a part of the queer community and that I am who I am. And I think that'll be the case for anyone at home who's struggling. I hope they know that at some point, if you keep fighting and keep believing in who you are and surrounding yourself with people who see that and love you and support you for who you are, then that'll be the case for you. You're gonna see your queerness as your superpower someday. I have all the faith in the world.
You said it beautifully. I never really thought of it that way.
Thank you.
Being out and identifying as LGBTQ as a superpower. That's actually, I've never heard that such distinction personally before. That's something I might kind of carry about, as I identify as gay and see that as a superpower myself. I don't think I'll be the person who I am today. So,
nice.
Compliments about this. Thank you very much, Robbie, for kind of opening that perspective. We all have our superpowers in a sense, guys, and the fact that if you identify as LGBTQ might be one of your strengths and maybe something that gets you up every day and makes you proud for who you are. You see all these superheroes and the fact that, they all have to be powered by something. That's probably their superpower. It's what makes them them in a sense.
Totally.
Well, as sad as it sounds, this concludes our conversation with you, Robbie Couch. We want to thank you for making time to thank you for making the time to join us on this TEENtastic Tuesday to discuss the Sky Blues with you. Congratulations on the success of your debut young adult novel. We look forward to seeing the story come to life on the screen, as well as checking out your second novel, Blaine for the Win, which is due out next year in spring 2022.
And the Blue Skies, or the Sky Blues, sorry, is available as a physical book, an ebook, and an e-audiobook through the LA Public Library. You can visit our website at lapl.org for more information. And as of today, July 27th, it's actually like all checked out. We don't have any available. And and reading your book, I actually had a copy from a colleague. Like, it doesn't have a cover or anything because I couldn't just borrow one from one of our libraries. So go ahead and add yourself to the wait list, and it'll be worth the wait, I promise you.
Awesome. That's a good problem to have, to be on the wait list.
Yeah.
Very cool. Thank you both so much. I had a blast, and I really appreciate you inviting me on. This was great.
Well, thank you again, Robbie. And for those that are watching, while you're on our website, definitely check out lapl.org/teens to see our new recommended content for teens, get access and information about careers, college, and exam study guides and resources, how to get involved at your local branch library, and how to balance right with teen health and wellness.
And again, thank you very much for tuning in to this week's LA Public Library TEENtastic Tuesday program. We'll see you again next Tuesday.
Bye,
Thank
everybody.
you. See ya.